All right, now we're going to get into our question session here. And the first question that we talked about and that I want to pose to you kind of is a spin from the boot camp, the Women in Industry boot camp that was held in Austin, Texas at 3M. And it kind of took off on its own. It had a life of its own. And the topic was how to ask for what you want. And I think we had some of our roundtables earlier this morning on how to negotiate or how to ask for the things that you want. And there's an art to that, I think, and certainly as you develop your own careers and you become more confident in your positions, you get better at it. So I'd like to ask all of you for your advice on not only your experience of how you ask for that promotion or that raise, or even ask for help when you need it. And then also maybe share what our audience can take away for the next time they need to ask for something from their boss. And let's start, Pam, with you, and then we'll come back down around.
Okay. I think one piece of advice would be to ask before it's offered. If you think there's a value that you can add to the company that's not maybe currently an open position, maybe it's a position that you design and you don't go in saying, hey, I need more money. It's here's the value I can bring to the company and here's what I think that value is worth. That will go a lot longer, will take you farther than just saying, look, I'm struggling, I need more money. You know, who doesn't? So I think how you frame that, and one of the things, you know, I read a lot about negotiations, and there's a book called Ask For It, and it says that men initiate negotiations to advance their careers 4 times more than women. So, and I don't think that's a surprise to any of us, but I think the opportunity is there, you know, to ask for what you want. And as someone who manages people, I'm really not a mind reader, and I really want to know what my folks are interested in, where they want to go, what they want, and we have a lot of dialogue. So I'm not sort of surprised if something comes up. I want to sort of get a feel for where they're at. And there's a lot of things that you can ask for. Maybe it's not a promotion. Maybe it's a title change. Maybe you feel like another title is more to your liking and gives you more credibility when you're out talking to vendors. Maybe it's a flexible schedule. You know, maybe it's you volunteer to lead a new initiative. You know, our marketing communications manager came to me and said, hey, I really want to do this, you know, particular thing, you know, to really raise morale, improve the culture. I'm all for that. It wasn't anywhere in my mind or on my radar, but she brought it to me, and it's a great opportunity for her to raise her visibility in the company. So I'd say, you know, ask for things that are not necessarily open positions. There's a lot of things you can ask for.
I would agree with everything you said, Pam, especially explaining the value you're bringing. But I would add a few things. Have your facts together before you go in, and don't be afraid to toot your own horn and explain and demonstrate your accomplishments. I think women are often bashful about sharing their accomplishments, and we shouldn't be. And then know what is important to the person you're speaking with. You know, what are their objectives? How can you help them meet their objectives? And how do they like to consume information? You know, sometimes people do like you to share all the background information and have a little personal conversation. Other people really just want the facts and want to think about it a little bit. Others will make the decision right on the spot. So try to get some background information on the person you're dealing with. And then if you do get a no, ask why. You know, why was your idea or your request rejected? Is there something you can go back and work on or bring to the individual to help, you know, explain your position and your request? And even if the next answer is no and it's something you really believe in, be persistent. Don't always take no for an answer. I mean, I do a lot of fundraising with charities, and I get no a lot. In my mind, no just means not now. So don't think that no means never.
I would agree with everything that's been said. The only thing I would add to that would be knowing what it is you want. Sometimes we think we know what we want, and we come in and people say, I want a bigger position, I want more responsibility, you know, et cetera. But what they really want may not be that. It's actually doing your homework and yourself and looking in the mirror at yourself ahead of time to say, what is the end goal? Do I want more flexible schedules so I could be with my kids? What is it that I'm looking for? Do I want more responsibility now or in the future? Do I want a career path? What am I asking for? Because I think the clearer you are on what you want, the higher the odds are you're going to get it. A lot of times, the beginning of the conversation, the first 20 minutes is trying to drill into who I'm talking with and to get to what it is they're truly asking for. It could be, you want more money. Okay, well, what does that mean? Are you willing to work more? Are you willing to take on bigger assignments? Are you willing to travel more? Are you willing to do things? What are you willing to do for what you want? And what is exactly what you want? And if you don't know, say that. I don't know exactly the path. I don't know exactly what I want, but I know that I want to continue to grow in this organization or have more responsibility. Can you help me figure out what that is? And one of the things I recommended to people that work for me is to say, come in and kind of have already looked at what are you good at? What do you contribute now? What are the things you want to continue to grow in? And what are things you don't know that you'd like to learn about? Because the best conversations I have in terms of mentoring are when someone comes in and says, I don't know anything about this. Can you and I work on this because I want to learn more about this topic?
I think one point is that we probably are at a point where we're rarely asking for things for ourselves now. Usually whenever I'm asking for what I want, it's actually for what my team wants or what we need to get to the next level, the support that they need. And a lot of times those conversations, the same principles apply. And if you're always going in with an honest and open conversation to whomever the request is going, and you're on the same page about how it impacts the team, how it impacts the organization, what it does for morale or what it does to grow within the market and add profitability, I think that whenever you show a united front, you get a lot of yeses. And when you're trying to do the right things, you get a lot of yeses. So for me, the energizing thing at this point to ask for what I want is that it's impacting a lot of people. And hopefully we're all accomplishing more together. And it's been actually quite rewarding, more rewarding than whenever I was kind of in it as an individual contributor.
Great. So I think I'd like to open this up if anyone has questions, but I just want to make a couple of comments on asking. Kind of funny comments, actually, because my husband's of the mind that it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission, so he goes and does what he wants to do anyway. And I used to work for a boss, and we called him, his favorite statement was, the answer's no, what's the question? So, depends on how well you negotiate. So before I go to the next question, does anyone have a question from the audience or an add-on from what we just heard from our panel?
Can you give some examples of obstacles or challenges that you face to get where you are today in your career?
Did you hear it?
Yep.
Okay. The question was examples of obstacles that they have faced to get to the position that they have now.
I'll answer that. For me, when I was working in the aerospace industry, I was working for a woman who was degreed, and she left the company, but I wasn't allowed to advance because I didn't have my degree. So at 39, I went to school for the first time, college. All I had was a high school diploma, but I had worked very hard. And I told you, I looked for opportunities to learn, and I loved learning. You wouldn't know that from my grades in high school, but my grades in college were better. So for the next 6 years, I took night classes, weekend classes. It took me 6 years to get my 4-year degree. I was recently divorced. I was working a full-time job, a part-time job, but I knew where I wanted to go, and I knew what it took to get there. So that was an obstacle that I was able to overcome. So when they say, they went back to school, they got their MBAs, learning and having that knowledge and really that thirst for knowledge was really important. But when they said, you know the stuff, but you're not allowed because this is sort of our criteria, I was flabbergasted. So they paid for my college. I worked there for 2 more years, and then I found my way out.
Okay, our next topic is on risk and reward. And I think we all have spots in our career or time levels in our career where we've actually stuck our neck out. I know all of you are going to share something about your careers where you did it. And I'll share a little bit of mine in the beginning. When you saw my video, I am the owner of a company called City Electric. It's upstate New York. It's an independent, smallish, mid-sized distributor. I started there 35 years ago, and it was one location. It was kind of imploding. The former family owners had sold it to an investor. And then I went to work for this investor, and he hired me as vice president of administration. And I describe it as walking into a dusty old building filled with dusty old people. It was pretty sad. But my job and my challenge, which I had my heart into, was to build this company back to what it once was. And what I loved about it, and the challenge for me, was to leave a job that I had before and take a challenge like this. So anyway, fast forward, I had taken my bonus at the end of every year. I took it in stock option. For 10 years I did this. So instead of taking cash, I took an opportunity of who knows what down the road 10 years later. And then the owner was ready to sell the business and asked if I was interested in buying, and I said I would love to if I can get the financing together. So I mortgaged my house, and I maxed out credit cards, borrowed on my husband's life insurance policy, signed personal guarantees, and bought 51% of the company with a lot of loans. And then 4 years later, went and bought the balance of the company. So that's sticking your neck out and putting all of your life on the line to build the company. And now, not quite like Tammy's company, but now all these years later, we just opened our 10th branch, and we have 105 employees, and it's still privately owned and a great upstate New York independent distributor. So that's my story. So Tammy, let's start with you, and we'll work our way back around on risks that you've taken in your career.
I already mentioned agreeing to run our Southwest region. That was a big risk I took in 2003. In 2006, when I became the CEO, we were, I think I mentioned, $485 million, and we did an acquisition of a company in Texas and New Mexico that was about $100 million, had over 200 employees and 19 branch locations. The day that we closed the transaction, we had them running on all of our technology. That was very risky, especially being the new leader of a 100% employee-owned company. All of our employees have a stake in the game, so if that would have went south, it wouldn't have just been my investment, it would have been the investment of all of the employee owners. But we knew and kind of understood the risk that we were taking. We thought it was a fabulous opportunity. There were some mistakes that we made along the way, but we learned and we corrected, and we had great success. In fact, so much success that we've done it several times since then, and M&A work has been part of our growth strategy, and because of that, we've been able to deliver really great returns to our employee shareholders in the form of bonuses and stock value growth in their ESOP account. But I think the message under all of that is you can take risk, but don't be foolish. Understand what the risks are and always have a backup plan if something goes wrong. If you fail, fail fast and move on to fix it. And learn from that mistake. I mean, I think we have a culture in our company where failure is okay, but don't make the same mistake more than once. Learn from it, fail fast, and recover.